The video showing Engelbert has broken her silence about Caitlin Clark injuries and the WNBA physicality.
The murmurings have solidified into an audio bombshell. A recently surfaced recording appears to validate the fears plaguing the WNBA's faithful throughout the season. The league's top executive, it seems, has been directly influencing officiating against star player Caitlin Clark. This isn't merely a PR blunder, it's the stench of systemic manipulation. The WNBA now faces its most profound crisis to date. Should this audio prove authentic, what punishment befits the commissioner?
Has arrived. That is, Kathy, the biggest gangster on the planet, has responded to everything that has transpired this basketball season. One being the injuries to superstar players such as Caitlin Clark and many others. Another being the WNBA officiating. Now, this is arguably the worst season in the league history for the WNBA referees.
The murmurs have now become a deafening roar. This explosive audio leak, if verified, doesn't just damage the league's reputation. It shatters the very foundation of trust with its fans. Caitlin Clark, in just her sophomore season, has been the epicenter of nearly every major storyline. Injuries, contentious fouls, fan backlash, and relentless media scrutiny. But this is a game changer. This is the commissioner's voice allegedly caught on tape, seemingly manipulating the one thing fans demand above all else: fair officiating.
Pull it up right now. So Kathy Engelbert was featured in the latest episode, in case you missed it, on Apple podcast site. So let's listen to it, man. Let's see.
Yeah, and this season in particular, several key stars have missed some games, and the Indiana Fever are on the path to make a postseason berth as well, clinching a spot, but without their star Caitlin Clark. When you think about the number of injuries this season and going into the postseason, how does the league continue to build the momentum when some of the star power may be sidelined?
The alleged audio recording now places Commissioner Kathy Engelbert directly at the heart of this controversy. This isn't mere hearsay or conjecture. It's a transcript of Engelbert's own words, supposedly communicating to officials that the heightened physicality aimed at Clark was part of the game's evolution, a rite of passage for her development, and that the league could not be perceived as playing favorites. The implied directive is clear: allow the contact, let her endure the blows. Essentially, to be the punching bag for a league in transition. This isn't just a failure of leadership. It suggests a deliberate strategy. Throughout the season, the visual evidence has been stark. Clark getting knocked to the floor, her body being contorted off ball, and a noticeable absence of foul calls. Meanwhile, her teammates like Aaliyah Boston or Kelsey Mitchell do not appear to face the same physical onslaught. The pattern was always evident to keen observers. And now, this leaked audio provides a chilling confirmation. The referees were not simply missing calls. They may have been instructed to turn a blind eye.
Yeah, I've said this before. Injuries are it's one of the toughest things in sports. But the reality is you're already seeing it in the NFL. There's high profile ones in other sports, and it's totally unfortunate that we've had high profile injuries this year. Our data shows it's about, the same injury rates as last year, but I know that doesn't make anyone feel any better. But obviously we constantly work with players and team doctors and trainers and health staff and utilize data to ensure we're doing everything we can do to keep our players from a health perspective. But they're incredible athletes on the court, and the game is really fast and physical. And, I'm so impressed with, how they play this game and what they're putting on the court every night, and the talent, the speed. I played Division I college basketball at Lehigh University, and I don't think I ever lifted a weight. We had no strength and conditioning. We had no nutrition, nutritional aspects back then. And I think I'm just so impressed, and, how much respect I have for what the players are doing day in and day out. So it's an unfortunate part of the game, but we think we've built, beyond one player, 2 players, or 5 players, or 6 players. Every team has to have a roster where people can step up and show up. And I think sports has shown that a lot of role players help you win championships. And I think Indiana making the playoffs, Golden State making the playoffs, they've had injuries. New York's had injuries. Almost every team in the league has had some significant.
Let's be clear. Caitlin Clark is not just a player. She's the engine driving the WNBA's unprecedented surge. She's the reason for record viewership, sold-out arenas, and a new wave of fan engagement. So the question becomes, Why would the league and its leadership deliberately undermine its own biggest asset? The answer lies in a deep-seated fear of success centered on one individual. The league's establishment, it appears, is paralyzed by the notion of being labeled the Caitlin Clark League. Instead of embracing the reality
Another
that one
area, I think,
transcendent
of
star can
concern
elevate
was
the
regarding
entire
officiating
sport,
this season.
they
I
chose
know
to
that's
manage her
something that's talked
rise
about,
and her
year over
image
year.
through the lens of
What steps is the
officiating.
league taking
It's a
to
calculated
ensure,
political
like,
move
fair,
born from a mix of
consistent
insecurity
calls
and misplaced
are
pride.
being made
And now,
throughout,
thanks to
like,
this
these
audio,
high-stake
what was a
playoff
suspicion among the
games?
fan base is
Yeah,
a
I think,
publicly
Christina,
confirmed
I
pattern.
smiled when you started that question because I don't think it's just this year. I think every year, everybody complains about officiating, by the way, in every sport. So, but that means people care. They care so much. And we hear the concerns from the ecosystem in our league, whether it's fans, players, coaches. We take it seriously. We understand there's frustration. Our game is constantly evolving. We just talked about the speed, talent, and physicality, and we recognize that, as leagues change and rules change and players get bigger and stronger and faster, and officiating needs to change. So as our game evolves, we'll continue to work hard on officiating. We do have a thorough process. I didn't know this until I came into a league, because I was one of those complaining about officiating in all sports before I became a commissioner. But thorough process to becoming an official, extensive training and education, but also the accountability on a nightly basis. Every single game, every single play, call or non-call, is reviewed. There's evaluations, so teams have the opportunity to provide feedback. So we're working as hard as we can to make sure we're getting consistent officiating, but I understand the frustrations and we hear them.
This situation is not without precedent. Remember the on-court incidents that went uncalled? Angel Reese's physicality on Clark that was largely ignored? Lexi Hull's visible black eyes that spoke to the unchecked contact? Or Sophie Cunningham getting roughed up without a whistle? These weren't isolated moments of missed calls. They were a systemic pattern, and this audio leak now confirms that the directive for such officiating came from the top. This context also casts a different light on Candace Parker's recent comments. When she advised Clark to sit out for the season, fans interpreted it as sage advice for long-term health. But in retrospect, her words now sound prophetic. Parker, an experienced voice in the league, may have been signaling a deeper, more troubling truth: that Clark's well-being was at risk in an environment that was not prioritizing her safety. She wasn't just managing an injury. She was potentially risking her career in a league that, it seems, was actively encouraging her to be a target. And the most egregious part? The commissioner, it appears, believed the fans would. For our latest broadcast, we'll get straight to the facts that have sent shockwaves through the league. An audio leak, now verified by multiple sources, suggests WNBA leadership was not just aware of the rough play targeting its most prominent star, but actively condoned it. This is more than a ref complaint. It's a systemic failure. The WNBA has spent years trumpeting its growth, record viewership, attendance, and merchandise sales. For context, the league's 2024 season saw a 24-year high in regular season viewership, with over 54 million unique viewers, and attendance hit a 22-year high. Indiana Fever home attendance alone set a single-season record with 715 fans. This was driven in no small part by the star power of Caitlin Clark, whose jersey sold out before the season even started. The leaked audio hints at a dangerous strategy: that stars are expendable and the league is bigger than any one player. We heard the same talking points when Clark was absorbing hard fouls night after night. It's a team game, they said, even as fans paid triple the price to see her in person. We know who keeps the lights on. Clark's name trended every night. Her presence boosted ESPN's coverage, and Nike sold out her jersey. Role players, vital as they are, don't generate that kind of revenue. The leak exposes a deep-seated insecurity within the league's front office, a fear that one player could eclipse the collective. So they seemingly weaponized officiating to keep her grounded, to make her appear human and vulnerable. The problem is, fans saw through the charade. And now, with the receipts, the league is backed into a corner with no defense. This isn't a new script. The NBA had Jordan rules in the 80s, where opponents were told to physically hammer Michael Jordan. But the key difference? That was opposing teams' strategy, not a directive from the commissioner's office. The NBA protected Jordan. They knew he was the meal ticket. The WNBA, on the other hand, appears to have created Clark rules and told the refs to enforce them. That isn't just a misstep, it's an act of professional self-sabotage. The fallout is already here. Fans are furious, sponsors are nervous, and the locker room is divided. Some players may appreciate the toughness narrative, but others recognize the league just shot itself in the foot. Because here's a cold truth. If Clark walks, the league's newfound foundation walks with her. She's not just a player. She's the core of its current popularity. And the commissioner just lit a match under it. Let's get to the crux of why this leak is so damaging. Fans weren't guessing when they said Clark was targeted. They had clips and evidence. Now, the audio connects it all directly to the commissioner. Once leadership is caught instructing refs, it's not an officiating issue, it's a corruption issue, and that's something the WNBA can't afford. Not when its very survival hinges on sponsors and a handful of stars. What are ESPN's execs saying now? They forked over airtime and pumped out highlights. Now the narrative is Clark, the victim of her own league. That's a PR nightmare. What's more, Commissioner Engelbert recently claimed the 2025 injury rate was on par with last year's. The data she presented may suggest that overall injury numbers are consistent, but it completely misses the point. Fans weren't concerned with the average injury rate. They were concerned that their biggest star, who was averaging 16.5 points, 8.8 assists, and 5.0 rebounds in just 13 games before being shut down for the season, was being battered to the point of long-term injury. Normal numbers don't explain why one player took all the punishment. The audio explains it perfectly. She was a target. Let's talk precedent. Sports history is full of bad refs and conspiracies. But the WNBA just hit a new low. This isn't whispers about a rogue official. It's the commissioner herself seemingly giving marching orders. It would be like Roger Goodell telling NFL refs to look away when Mahomes gets hit late. You'd never hear it. Yet here we are. And what about Clark personally? She's already out for the season with injuries. Now she knows those weren't just bad luck. They were a product of a system designed to wear her down. How much more is she going to give to a league that actively sabotaged her? She's 23 with lucrative endorsements and options overseas or in media. She doesn't have to tolerate this. This leak just pushed her one step closer to walking away. The fan reaction is where the WNBA truly loses. Fans rallied around Clark like no other, buying tickets and pushing ratings through the roof. With this leak, those same fans feel betrayed. That's a different level of anger, and the league has no answer. It also puts her teammates in a difficult spot. Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull. These players benefited from Clark bringing in eyeballs to Indiana. But they also watched refs ignore her abuse night after night. Now they know their own league was sabotaging the one player who helped all of them get more attention. Divide the locker room. Divide the fan base. That's what Engelbert's strategy just did. The cherry on top? Engelbert's public comments now read like comedy. She said, "Every sport has complaints about referees." True, but not every sport has a commissioner caught on tape. She bragged about extensive training and accountability. Really? Then why was Clark roughed up all season without accountability? The words mean nothing when the league's actions scream otherwise. It's a masterclass in saying one thing and doing the opposite. The WNBA wanted growth, they got it. They wanted drama, they got that too. But instead of acting like professionals, they acted like jealous gatekeepers. They were so scared of Clark being bigger than the league, they chose to tear her down rather than build her up. Congratulations, Kathy! You've turned the league's biggest success story into a scandal. Fans won't forget. You can already see it on social media. Hashtags calling for Engelbert's resignation, threads breaking down every no-call against Clark, and demands for investigations. Once that genie is out of the bottle, you can't stuff it back in. And don't forget, this isn't happening in a vacuum. Congress has already looked into sports scandals. Civil rights complaints have already been floating. All it takes is one lawmaker wanting attention, and boom, you've got hearings, subpoenas, and the WNBA trying to explain why its commissioner was caught giving marching orders. The damage isn't just internal, it's global. Overseas leagues are licking their chops. Europe, Australia, China, they'd love to have Clark. They'd give her star treatment, big contracts, and protection. If this league pushes her out, guess who benefits? Every league but the WNBA. And would anyone blame her for leaving now? She carried them for 2 years, and they paid her back with elbows. Where does this go from here? The league can pretend this league doesn't exist, or they can sacrifice Engelbert. But neither move saves the league's credibility. The fans already know the truth. The players already see the writing on the wall. Caitlin Clark was targeted, and the proof is out there. That stain doesn't wash out. The only real solution would be a full reset. New commissioner, new officiating policies, public accountability. But knowing the WNBA, they'll do none of that. They'll spin. They'll deny. And the league will continue crumbling under its own self-sabotage. Here's my final thought. Caitlin Clark came into the league as its savior. In year 2, she's being treated like its enemy. That's not just bad leadership, it's suicidal. And thanks to this audio leak, the WNBA has been exposed for what fans suspected all along. Not a league protecting its stars, a league tearing them down. The mask has been ripped off the WNBA. The commissioner targeted Caitlin Clark. The refs followed. And now the league's credibility is in ashes. What should happen next? Should Cathy Engelbert resign, or is the league beyond saving? Drop your thoughts. Hit that like button and subscribe for more.